Here we go.
And you can start playing anytime, Rufus.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. Happy to have you here. Welcome. Happy Wednesday.
Hi, Diana and Jana. Long time no see.
Here we go. Oh, here's Irene today. Yay. That's a great topic. You can play along with Rufus if you'd like. Hi, Patricia. Jana, thanks for jumping on today. John, welcome. Lucy, Jean, Irene, hi. Alan, hi. Good to see you. Kirsten, Diana, great to have you. So you can drum along with Rufus. If you'd like to change your name and tell us where you're from, that would be great. The three dots in the upper right. Click on it, you'll see rename. I'm going to do it now, and I'm coming in from PA. So you can see I just added that to my name. We're an international community. It's always of interest. See where folks are coming from. Feel free to join Rufus for a nice little warm up.
What's up, Alan? It's nice to see some repeat faces and some brand new faces. A few faces I saw this weekend. Drum Circle Facilitators Guild Conference.
Hey, Timothy, good to see you. Here comes Lulu. I like that, Rufus. Hi, Lulu. Welcome. You're welcome to play along. Welcome, everybody. Oh, great. We've got Los Angeles, California, Montreal, Arizona, Utah.
And 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yay! Great drumming, heralding us in, Rufus. Thank you so much. It's super.
You're very welcome.
Welcome, everybody, to Music Alive. It's a series we began just about a year ago, Mike. It's hard to believe we've been doing this a year. Yay. We've had some wonderful presenters, and we're so happy that you're joining us today for Rufus. Rufus will be a fabulous. I'm really excited to see what he has to share for us, and my conversations with him were just very exciting. And Music Alive, we started originally, just so you have a sense of the history, we started last year when the pandemic began, mostly to help create an online resource library of ideas and activities and the ways that we could work with seniors, caregivers, and families during this time, because truly the seniors were struggling and are struggling to such a high degree. My daughter is a hospice nurse, Juby, and she told me during the time and has been telling me all along about what's happening with the isolation and how seniors are suffering to such a high degree. So hopefully these resources, it's a free online resource library that will be up forever, and you can go and see any of these interviews at any time, and that was kind of our hope. And now we have a whole year under our belt, so to speak, and over the last few weeks we're changing now from a focus on seniors to an intergenerational focus. So you will see, if you've been with us for many months or over the year, that we are now opening up to really broaden the palette and the horizon, so we can create all kinds of more videos that will serve people better of all ages. So Mike, I turn it over to my partner, Mike and I have been partners in this project for a year now.
Yes.
And he's the tech guru. Hey, Mike.
Yes, it is March 368th. Welcome back. Somehow it's still March. And just a few quick reminders about Zoom. That our baseline is that we're pretty much all muted except Rufus when he's presenting. And if you have questions as we go, you can pop them in the chat. We may not ask right then, but we'll do our best to circle back around to get to all the questions. Remember that you can rename yourself. It's nice to see where everybody's from. So we'd love it if you feel like typing into the chat where you're from, or even changing your name. You can click in the little square, little box where your face is. In the upper right, there's 3 little dots there where you can rename yourself. On most machines, that's how you do it. And also, the big thing, I think, is just remembering you're in control of your own view and your own experience. So right now I'm in gallery view, and I can see everybody at once, and that's a nice part of the experience. And later I'll switch to gallery view when Rufus is talking and sharing. So for me, that's in the upper right. You'll see the words gallery view or speaker view. You can switch back and forth there, or you'll see just the word view. You can click there to change that. So you're always in control of your own experience, even when we flip it to spotlighting Rufus and it puts you in speaker view. You can change that anytime you like. Welcome aboard, y'all.
Thanks, Mike. It's wonderful. Did you talk about original sound?
I did not. I don't think. Are we playing instruments today, Rufus? We're not, are we?
I am.
I mean, with our microphones open. We're not playing into our mics.
No, I wish we could do that, but we can't yet.
I'm curious. Does it help on our end as a listener to be on original sound, Mike? Not in particular. Okay.
It doesn't make any difference, I don't think.
Okay. Cool. All righty. Welcome, everybody. And it is my honor and pleasure to introduce Rufus Glassco. Is that how I say your last name, Glassco?
Glassco, like glass company.
Great. Thank you. Glassco. I grew up in Corning, New York, so Glassco is familiar. And he is in Toronto, as you can see. I'm glad he popped it up there. I think I remembered that. Rufus has been working for 10 years with people with cancer and their supporters. And today he's going to share his wisdom from this experience that he's had for a decade. He also is a health rhythms, drum beat, and rhythm to recovery facilitator. And you saw Simon Faulkner last week. He is drum beat and rhythm to recovery. And he's also studied with Arthur Hall, Village Music Circles. You might have seen Arthur a few weeks ago. And Christine Stevens with the Health Rhythms. So he has a wealth of experience and a wealth of ideas to share with us. And Rufus, you can tell us more about yourself if you want to add to that. It's all yours. We welcome you, and we're so happy you're here.
Thank you so much, Mary. And thank you, Mike, for all of your technical expertise and all your support in this webinar. I don't really want to talk too much about myself because I'm here to share with you guys to encourage you and to give you some things to think about and some skills and some ideas about who to approach if you're not already working with people with cancer in your communities. So also I'm going to mention I've got a lot to cover, so I might ramble on a little bit. We're also going to do some activities to give you something experiential to enjoy and to see how it feels. I'm going to ask you for some input occasionally in the chat bar. But also I will be announcing at the end, I'm going to be doing a half-day training if you're interested in doing this work in more detail. At the end of April or at sometime in May. I haven't got the date figured out yet, but if you're interested, I'll provide you with my email address so you can follow up with me if this is something that resonates and something you want to take forward. So just to start with, you might have heard as we were drumming, this is the most important tool that I use in all of my work. It is called the gungurun bell, and it really helps people to play on the beat. It's a higher pitch, so it, with novice drummers who you will normally be working with in a cancer support center or hospital, you want to use all the tools you can use to get people to play together. So drumming is what we call a complementary alternative therapy, just like yoga and mindfulness work. So I'll talk a little bit about the value of learning some of this language because it really does help to get you in the door. And more cancer support centers are offering drumming now because people have heard about it. They know it works. They know it feels good. Some of them may not know about the research. Now, in Canada, we have a network of cancer support centers called Wellspring, where I've been working in the Greater Toronto area for a number of years, as Mary said. In the States, you might have heard of Gilda's clubs. They're named after Gilda Radner. Gilda Radner was an actress and a comedian famous for her work on SCTV. Rosanna Dana, you might remember her. She was married to Gene Wilder. And Gene, after she passed from cancer at the height of her career, he went up to a bunch of his Hollywood friends and important people and raised a whole bunch of money to set up Gilda's Place, excuse me, that's what it's called, all over the US. So there may be one in your community already. They may be doing drumming already, but they may not be. So that's a really good idea for someone to approach in the US. But I think a lot of places are now open to complementary alternative therapies. So find out who's offering those in your community. And that's the best sort of place to approach. It's really best to work in places that are specifically dealing with cancer and people who have cancer. And this allows people to become experts at navigating these issues and supporting others with their knowledge and experience. So one of the goals of my work is to help people transform themselves from being sort of bewildered, deer in the headlights, I can't believe this has happened to me, why is this happening to me, to empowered survivors and empowered and resilient people who can then share their wisdom with others and help them along the journey, because everyone's at a different stage when it comes to their treatment and their recovery from cancer. And so one of the things I always say to look for in your workshops is, as you do them over ideally a course of 6 or 8 weeks, you want to see less drumming and more talking, more sharing, people exchanging phone numbers and following up with each other. Because it's really, really difficult for people with cancer to communicate what it's like to have cancer, the stresses of all of that, and even the stuff that's coming through, the stuff that they're learning on that journey. People who don't have cancer often really don't get it, especially some of the difficult things that I'll hopefully have a time to mention a little bit of those. Also, I wanted to mention, I'll be referencing a book by Simon Faulkner that he mentioned last week that he has given me the honor of writing a chapter in about helping people with cancer. And that has a lot more detail that I'll be going over today. And that has amazing information for drumming with a huge different variety of populations. So I highly recommend that book. It'll be coming out in about a month. I'll put a link at the end of the, or Mike actually will be putting the link for me at the end of the webinar. Now, people with cancer have a lot of similar challenges. One of them being the side effects of chemotherapy, and that can be nausea, it can be brain fog, it can be hair loss. So it's really challenging for people with some of these conditions to go to places where there aren't other cancer patients. So that's why I recommend working in places that are specialized for helping people with cancer. There's a lot of challenges with negotiating the healthcare system, a lot of anxiety and fears around tests, waiting for results, and what to expect from upcoming tests and procedures. So people can often help each other out in that regard. And we want to try to check in with people frequently. I usually do this the first class. I ask people how they're doing. I ask them if they've ever drummed before. Most will say no. I say, don't worry. I'm a drum circle facilitator. Facilitator means to make easy. So we're going to teach you all you need to know. We're going to take it nice and easy. And I'll talk about a couple of other issues that are good to know about when you're working with this population. But I first wanted to jump into just imagining this concept. Imagine being told you have cancer. Imagine what that feels like. And then imagine trying to do whatever you can to lower your stress. But you also have the stress of having cancer and having to survive that, knowing that it can, frequently be fatal. That's a really, really tough dilemma to have. So drumming does a lot to help people with that dilemma. So I'll quickly tell you about the research. The research tells us that drumming helps to relieve anxiety, and it leads to improved mood. There's a lot of different research that shows that from a variety of different populations. There's a Canadian pilot study on children who are hospitalized with cancer that included active music making with drums, and they found that participation led to a significant improvement in mood. Patients at cancer support centers who are in drum circles often report being less conscious of the worries that dominate their lives after the session. That is a huge benefit, and I'll share an example of that at the end of my presentation. There's many other outcomes that aren't perhaps known or thought about before you get into this work that you can also share with people. So you're going to teach people new percussive skills, and they're going to have a greater openness towards learning new things, which helps them to become a little more optimistic about the future. What else can I learn? What else is out there for me? What else is good at lowering my stress? What else is fun? They have greater appreciation for healthy group activities that are fun. It helps to uplift their mood. The endorphins that are released by this aerobic activity is visceral, and people can feel it at the end of every workshop. There's also a feeling of greater acceptance, being heard and being understood in a community that really gets you compared to other communities and family members and friends who may not have a clue of what you're going through. It's also, we're giving people the opportunity to give and to receive empathy. And as I said before, there's this growing understanding and appreciation that they're not victims of cancers, but experts in resilience and recovery, and that they have valuable skills and expertise to offer that can benefit others. So by the end of the 6 weeks, we really want to see more of that sharing and talking, and there's a lot of opportunities for people to share non-verbally. And I'm going into health rhythms territory. I shouldn't really be talking too much about their protocol because I'm not authorized to do that, but I highly recommend, I'll talk about the trainings that I do recommend, but it's really interesting how emotions can be conveyed through sound. We all know that when people are scared or nervous when they're giving a speech, or when they're about to cry, we can hear that in the voice. It makes us want to cry. So we can allow people to share non-verbally on the drums and ask people to interpret what they're feeling around certain questions. That's the part of the health rhythms training called inspirational beats, and it's one of the most magical because people can understand each other with almost 100% accuracy without people having to say a word. So I want to go over quickly a couple of important considerations when working with this particular group. You don't want to have any more than 10 or 15 participants, ideally coming in every week for ideally 6 weeks at a time. 6 to 8 weeks I think is ideal. If you can go to 10, even better. And you have to have the understanding some are going to miss classes because of a variety of reasons: feeling ill, having medical appointments, returning to work, having no energy, having no transport. So cancer is also an economic crisis for many people, and they can lose their jobs, they can lose their cars, they can lose a lot. And some may not even have a car, and the Cancer Support Center may be hard to get to. It's important to convey we want them to try to be there for each week, but if they miss a class, it won't matter. We will pick up where they left off, and they can join right in. Each of those workshops is self-contained, ideally. And I'll talk a little bit about rhythms and why we don't teach complicated rhythms in a moment. We also ask for there to be mutual respect within the circle and confidentiality. They call it Vegas rules, but what happens in the circle needs to stay in the circle. And we have to ask people if they will honor those rules verbally and get everyone to nod their head, because people need to feel safe to share what they need to share. And I have heard some amazing and, I mean, really amazing and difficult life challenges that people are going through that they only felt safe to share there. And when we get these things out of us, it can cause, it can help to bring back healing, I think. We also remind people not to come if they're feeling at all sick, because people with cancer are often undergoing treatments that will suppress their immune systems. We also never wear perfumes or colognes in a cancer support center because people have very, very high sensitivity to smells. And also because of brain fog, we don't teach complicated rhythms. We don't ask people to play along and do exactly what we're doing because we don't want to do anything that will be challenging for them. We want to make this easy throughout the whole thing. That being said, I do teach a few rhythms over the 6 weeks, and we go back to those same rhythms frequently because it takes a while to learn them. But it's nice to finish a 6-week drumming program and have some rhythms that you can share at, you know, a family gathering or at a drum circle when you finally get up the courage to go to one because you've got these great skills. So it can lead to a lot of nice things down the road. So I think Health Rhythms, by the way, says don't teach rhythms because that's too complicated, but there's some simple rhythms that we can teach. And we also use a lot of mnemonics, which I'll demonstrate in a minute, about how to teach using words, following the tradition of Babatunde Olatunji, who taught us if you could say it, you can play it. So we do use a lot of icebreakers, especially always at the beginning. That's why they're breaking the ice they're always typically at the beginning. So what we'll do is we'll get people to do simple body percussion. So I would like to ask you to do that with me. And we're going to start by going snap, snap, clap, 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 snap, snap, clap, clap, clap. Now, if you have older adults, you want to get them to rub, because snapping can be hard with arthritic hands. And sometimes people might even have IVs in their hands, so you have to be able to adapt, or IVs in their arms. You might have to be able to adapt for that sort of thing. We get people to do another one on their legs, which is lap, 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 stomp, stomp, lap, 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 stomp, stomp. Sorry, you can't see me do that. Hopefully you can hear it. Lap, 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 stomp, stomp. And then I always introduce the most famous body percussion rhythm, which is lap, lap, clap, lap, lap, clap. And we do each of these rhythms for a few moments, and then we break the group up. But often, while we do this, someone's going to start singing. And you know what I'm talking about, right? We will rock you. Yeah, so that's a universally beloved rhythm, and that song is known by practically everyone on the planet now, I think. So it's good to bring in some familiar stuff and get people to relax. Then what I'll do is typically divide the group up and layer those 3 rhythms on top of each other. And we end with a bit of improvisation and some fun, and people are really surprised that they're able to do that. And it sounds beautiful to have those 3 rhythms layered on top of each other. So it automatically opens them up to, wow, maybe we're going to do some cool stuff here that I didn't think we could, just right off the bat. And if you're facilitators, you know it's not hard to get people drumming and sounding good right off the bat. So just real quick about how to get some work doing this. I really recommend you get some official training. Rhythm to Recovery and Health Rhythms are the best I would recommend. I think they're both complementary, and each one will teach you dozens of new activities and games you can use, not just in these types of workshops, but in all your workshops. If you can't take the Rhythm to Recovery training right now, you can buy the book. It's the first book I've ever seen on healing and drumming. The second one is going to be the book coming out in about a month that Simon has also put out. So it's an amazing book full of not just good games and activities, but all of these can be turned into metaphors that lead to discussion, which is really important when we want to unpack the challenges that we're going through. And the drums just give us a reason or a way into that. Also, this work is now evidence-based. It's backed up by solid research. So you have a really good chance of getting in the door just by saying the words, it's evidence-based. But it's also good to learn some of the lingo around the research, which I'll briefly mention. But when you know how to talk the talk to get in the door of medical communities, it opens minds, doors, hearts, and eventually wallets to pay you to do this work. Also, it's good to offer before and after questionnaires with the population you're working with, ideally at the very beginning and at the end of 6 weeks. But if they only give you a one-shot demo, then at the beginning and the end of each of those classes. The Rhythm to Recovery book has some questionnaires you can use in their book, so you don't have to go out and do all that research. Now, to get to know the research, you want to talk science. I like to say my work is evidence-based, and the research which has been properly done and published in peer-reviewed medical journal, leading peer-reviewed medical journals, it's a mouthful, medical and professional journals, proves that this work measurably and significantly lowers stress hormones and also improves immune function. So that's it in a sort of an elevator speech version. But if you take those trainings, you'll also have access to all of the research, and you can then share it. Some of that research is available online, but if you follow up with me later, I can share some of those links with you. But it's really good to be able to send some of that research to the decision makers. It's also good to have some of those decision makers in that first demo workshop, because if they experience it and they feel good afterwards, they're much more likely to not only offer it to their members, as we say. We don't call them clients at Wellspring, we call them our members. And also with the staff. Now at Wellspring, their job is to raise money most of the time, because none of the people who come in to receive any of these complementary alternative therapies have to pay, which is a beautiful thing about it. I think Gilda's might be the same, Gilda's Place. Anyway, because of that, I want to mention, that can lead to corporate wellness work if you're working with staff, and you can use this in corporate wellness work. So that being said, don't be expected to receive a lot of money from a cancer support center. Typically, they don't have a lot of money to pay facilitators. Get a grant if you can, if you know someone who can write grants, if you know of places that give money for health and music. There are a lot of new opportunities like that out there because people know it works. That being said, it is the most rewarding work I've ever done. And Arthur Hall always talks about drum tithing. So I give some stuff away for sure. I also give stuff away at a significant discount. And one of the things one of the reasons I say that is because I also, when I get asked by some corporate clients, why do you charge so much? Or whenever I get asked that question, I mention this work that I do. And I say to them, they can't afford to pay me very much, so I have to subsidize that work by charging more for corporate workshops. And everybody out there knows somebody who's had cancer. And I think once they've experienced the benefit of that, they would like to know that I'm out there helping people who can't afford to pay very much, like the organizations, and those who are receiving it for free. So that's just a little justification for charging the big boys a little bit more money, okay? So we're going to try a quick activity. This is a game that I got from Dave Holland's book, Drumagination, which I highly recommend. It's chock full of great things. It's called Jump Right In. Okay, so when I say jump right in, I'd like you to bang 3 times on your drum, like this. Jump right in, boom, boom, boom. Let's try that. Jump right in, boom, boom, boom. Excellent. Then I'm going to say slide to the groove. We're going to scratch our nails over the drum and go tap, tap. So scratch, tap, tap, scratch, tap, tap. Jump right in. Scratch, tap, tap, scratch, tap, tap. Just 2 times. Let's try it from the top. Jump right in, boom, boom, boom. Slide to the groove. Scratch, tap, tap, scratch, tap, tap. Then I'm going to say, don't forget to breathe. Well, how do we forget? It's automatic, right? Well, thankfully we were given control over our breathing. So when we take nice deep breaths, it helps to release endorphins and helps to relax us. So let's try that. Don't forget to breathe. Let's bring in. Let it sigh. Let's do it again. Make a nice audible sound. It's always more stress relieving when you make noise, okay? And when we all do that together, it doesn't sound weird, okay? Even though I can't hear you in a group, you want to encourage people to do that audibly. From the top, jump right in, boom, 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 and slide to the groove. Scratch, tap, tap, scratch, tap, tap. Don't forget to breathe. And you heard me slow it right down there for good reason. We want to take our time and get deep breaths. And then I'll say, now the last thing I'm going to say is make a connection. So I want you to look at the screen, look at your video camera. And typically what we do in a circle is we ask people to look across the circle, and we're all going to count 1, 2, and say, I see you, and point at that person. But wait a minute, pointing is not very polite. So I've been taught to do what's called the Disney point. Apparently when you ask where Space Mountain is at Disneyland, they go, it's that giant mountain right over there. So that's called the Disney point. All right, and we're just going to open up our hands like that. It's very, very welcoming and inviting. This is very accusatory and, Doesn't feel so good. So when I say make a connection, look into your screen or look at someone's face on the top there, if you can see anyone, and say the words 1, 2, I see you. Okay? Make a connection. 1, 2, I see you. And try to suppress the smile. It's really hard. No, I'm just kidding. All right, and then we'll do that again and again, a bit faster and a bit faster, and that's always a lot of fun. But just to pack in a little more info, I'm going to move on, and we'll keep coming back to some activities. So language is very important in this community. I never say the words cancer victims, or people who've been struck down by cancer, or even cancer patients. Some are survivors. But that's also a tricky word. Sorry about that. Cancer victims means, cancer survivors means you have to typically live for 5 years cancer-free, but then it doesn't mean you're going to survive longer than that. So that word is kind of emotionally loaded as well. I prefer to use the words people living with cancer and people who have recovered from cancer. It takes a little bit longer, but it's not as emotionally charged for some people. I never use the word cure, okay? But this work does help people to heal. And I want to talk about why I say heal. The word heal and health and holy all come from the same root word. Okay? In my definition, heal means coming back into balance, honoring your mind and your body and your spirit. And when we do, our bodies are capable of amazing self-repair. We've all recovered from scrapes and bruises and scabs and rashes and even bad cuts, broken bones, even worse. Heart operate. I mean, our bodies are these amazing self-repairing machines. So it's good to remind people of that. Now, another thing that people sometimes say is cancer is a teacher. And that's a pretty weird concept to think about that. So I'd like you to think about what that could mean. And as I play the ocean drum, which is another very important therapeutic tool, I'd like you to think about how cancer could be a teacher for you. If you were to get cancer, what would it be teaching you about your life? And if you want to share any of that in the chat bar, please feel free. This is another very important therapeutic instrument. It's called an ocean drum. This one's made by Remo. I highly recommend the large ones, not the small ones. Close your eyes. Call this a transportation device. I don't know if you just went to the beach with me, but it really does transport people. It makes their stress bottom right out. I've used it in some recording as well, so I just wanted to mention I've done a little research. A wave usually lasts between 6 to 8 seconds, and then that sound comes down to almost silence and then begins again. So it's good to have the sound coming up and going down and then coming back to silence on a sort of a rhythmic way if you can. And thankfully, there's never a correct time length for a wave. It changes every wave, but typically they'll come in sets that are around 6 to 8 seconds. So if you can count as you do it and try to come down to almost silence every few seconds, that's a really good idea. I'm just going to go into the chat and see what people have said. Oh, to slow down and appreciate every moment. Yes. Thank you, Diana. Lucy says, it would teach me what is really important in my life. Absolument. Yes. Oh, and someone's describing how I'm doing it. Impermanence. Yeah, sometimes it reminds us we're not here forever. and we've got stuff to do before we go. We better get it done. And I'm not just talking about making your will. I'm talking about getting some forgiveness done. I'm talking about doing a little bit less, caring a little bit less for other people. Oh, there's lots more answers coming in. Cancer has taught me to value my health, the people I love, and to live every moment through being present. Absolutely. The book I mentioned was Rhythm to Recovery. Family and friends are the most important part of life. Everything else is not important. Absolutely. Passing the wave. We're going to do an exercise today called the Rhythmic Wave, which is kind of like that. And it's a good point. I often pass out the Roshan drum for people to play with themselves. It's lovely to have it played over your head, but I think it's lovely to play with as well. Oh, and thank you, Mike, for sharing the book that I mentioned. Now, the ocean drum gives me a nice segue into the fact that I use different themes each week to help me organize my thoughts, my inspirational beats questions, my rhythmic naming activities. Rhythmic naming is when we say, what's the rhythm of your name? And I'll talk a little bit about some examples of that. And then on the day we have the ocean drum, we'll be going to the beach during the guided imagery. Guided imagery is a very integral part of health rhythms. It's just about receiving, and some of us will play background music as we describe a journey that we're on. Others will encourage people to play an instrument. There's no right or wrong way to do guided imagery, but most people are not familiar with how easy it is to deeply relax when being led in a guided imagery meditation. It's far easier than meditating and thinking no thoughts. So for some people, meditation is a real challenge. Guided imagery is a beautiful way in. Mike, if you could share in the chat the themes that I sent you. I'm going to share now some of the themes that I use in my workshops over a typical 6-week program. The first one is overcoming your fears. I presume I sent that to you, Mike. Yeah, there they are. So overcoming your fears, which means we do that whenever we try new things, which people are usually doing in that drum circle. So we're applauding them for doing that. They're already doing that the first day. Learning new things, taking creative risks, and meeting new people, and sharing. That's a fear, to share some of your challenges as you're going through this. The importance of living in the moment, which is about mindfulness. We heard about that already. Drumming is a great way to be in the moment. You cannot really think about what you didn't do yesterday, what you want to do tomorrow, or the stuff that gave you cancer, or how the hell you're going to get over it, when you're just sitting there having fun and following along to the beat. It requires all of your attention. The importance of gratitude. Cancer can teach us what we have to change in our lives and who we have to forgive sometimes. And that can be really, really, really hard. But sometimes it takes something like cancer to give us that kick in the patootie that we need to do that hard work. But it has amazing life-healing benefits if we can. Can we become grateful for cancer? As we have learned, and all that we have learned, and all that we have changed? Or will we just stay victims of cancer and keep asking that question, why did it happen to me? That only we can answer, ultimately. Now, that's not to say there's not environmental reasons for succumbing to cancers, but typically people are carrying a lot of stuff, a lot of stress. I'll mention some other things. The importance of self-care. People don't give themselves enough time for that. They feel they have to do too much in this world, and that seems to be at the bottom of the list. Well, this cancer can rejig your priorities pretty darn quick. And it also means not caring so much for others. We're more important. We can't care for others if we can't care for ourselves, and we're not here to care for them. And so this also makes people think about that. And I get a lot of caregivers. I get a lot of hospital workers in my cancer groups, because they're so good and so driven to help others, but often at the expense of sleep and doing enough exercise and eating right and caring for themselves. The importance of play. George Bernard Shaw has a lovely quote. He says, "We don't stop playing because we grow old." You can probably finish the sentence. We don't, I always mix it up. We grow old because we stop playing. That's it. Yeah, thank you, Mary. I know a lot of people know that. And I love to play. Playing is so, it brings back the kid in you, right? And the importance of helping others. And again, this helps us to reflect on, well, I actually do that a lot. Maybe I don't do enough for that for myself, but it's also really important to tell people it's okay to ask for and to receive help from others. It's really hard for people to do that, but I like to say to people, when you allow someone to help you, you're giving them the gift of giving. And if you say, oh, I'm fine, I don't need that, I'm good, whatever, you're denying them that gift of giving. Nobody wants to deny that gift of giving to someone. And sometimes it's really important just to share, to encourage people to say, hey, I know you're thinking about me. You probably don't know what to do or what to say. That's fine. You can just send me an email and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I love you. I'm praying for you. That's great. I love that. Or you could just drop a meal by one day, and I would really appreciate that. You can give them examples. When we give people examples of how to help us, they do. They love that. People really need examples because some people don't know what the heck to do. And another issue I'll mention right now, because we talk about this in Inspirational Beats, one of the questions we eventually ask is, how does it feel when you finally share your diagnosis with others and some people you thought would be there for you disappear from your life? How does that make you feel? And what would that sound like on the drum? Thankfully, I've never not lost any drums yet, but there's a lot of anger that comes out, a lot of sadness. And then we ask the question, so what do you do when that happens? And what do you discover? People often say, I find out who my real friends are. I find out who was really there for me. And I'm so glad I know that now. I mentioned some rhythmic naming games. The typical one is, what's the rhythm of your name? We start with the easy ones. We start with that one to get to know each other. People love to hear their names spoken back by a group, especially in a place like Toronto and Southern Ontario, where we have so many different ethnic groups, so many different interesting and bizarre names. When they get to share it themselves, there's no mispronunciation worries, and you hear a whole group chant your name back with power feels wonderful. We can also ask, what are you grateful for? What's your favorite way to stay healthy? What do you love to do? What's your favorite way to have fun? What's the name of someone you love? And you can include pets, by the way. People love to share that because pets are always there for people and never judge you, never let you down, especially if you love them back. And this leads to amazing conversations as participants discover new things they have in common, new strategies for wellness and coping, and new resources and new ideas that they get to share with each other. So it's a really beautiful way to allow for that, the synergy of the group. I always say to people, you guys are far smarter than I am. The intelligence in this group is off the charts, and we're here to help you share some of that with each other. Okay, so I've got a lovely activity we're going to try. Oh, 4:44, magic number. 15 minutes left, good to know. So we're going to do something called the Rhythmic Wave now. But before I do that, we're going to learn just the basics of improvisation. This comes out of Rhythm to Recovery. It's a lovely activity to get people drumming together and improvising right away. And what I want to say real quick about improvisation, in order to be able to improvise, you have to turn off part of your brain. The part of your brain you have to turn off is the part responsible for self-criticism. Well, that's a nice voice to turn off, silence sometimes. So this activity prevents you from thinking, I can't do this, or I'm no good at this, or why am I here, or whatever. All that stuff goes away because you're focusing on the activity. So to do this, we play 2 bass notes, bass, bass, and we add a clap. Bass, bass, clap. Let's try that together. Bass, bass, clap. Bass, bass, clap. I got to turn down my mic a little bit. Let's add some more claps. As many as you want. Even little patterns if you want to. Wonderful. Now we're going to go back and we're going to go down to rubbing the drum. We're going to go bass, bass, rub, rub, bass, bass, rub, 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 bass, bass. Rub it a bunch of times. Bass, bass. Do a circle. Do another circle in the opposite direction. Now turn that into a scratch. As many scratches as you want. Scratchy, scratchy, scratch. There we go. Now we're going to bring it back to the edge of the drum. We're going to play bass, bass, tone. bass, bass, tone, bass, bass, tone, bass, bass, tone. Let's add some more tones. Bass, bass, tone, 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 bass, bass, tone, 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 bass, bass, tone, bass, bass. Now in a moment I'm going to invite you to do whatever you want. We're going to keep playing the bass notes together, but in between we're going to add snaps. I forgot the snaps. We're going to add claps. We're going to add rubs and scratches or tones. There's no right or wrong way. 1, 2, make up your own. And 4, and 3, and 2, and 1, and rumble! Oh yeah, I didn't mention we do a lot of rumbling. That really gets some stress out. So real quick, I want to now introduce an activity called the Rhythmic Wave, which is based on what we just did, okay? And this is one of my favorite rhythm to recovery activities. Just going to share screen now. And I'm going to share some computer audio. Okay, and it'll come on in a second. Before I start this though, what I'm going to tell you is we're going to start at the sort of tempo we began at, and we're going to go faster and we're going to get louder, okay? And then I'm going to say, let's bring it down now, and then we're going to get softer and quieter. And we're going to bring it up at the end, again louder and quicker, and at the end we're going to bring it back down. And then we're going to fade right into nothing. Now the reason we do this is the music is going to tell us, or it's going to remind us to slow down our breathing whenever we're slowing down. Okay, this is a really, really powerful way to entrain our rhythmic tempo, our breathing tempo, or breathing rhythm, to the rhythm of the drums. And we're going to let the slowing down of the rhythm slow down our breathing. But first we're going to speed up, okay? So we're going to start with bass, bass, tone, tone, tone.
Can I interrupt 1 second? Sorry.
Yes, please.
Are you able to bring your volume back up? I don't know if you turned it down or if Zoom turned you down.
I think I did.
There we go.
I'm going to try it now.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
No problem. One, two, make up your own. Don't forget to breathe. Nice deep breaths. A little bit faster, a little bit louder. Start slowing it down now. Slow down your breathing now. Now I said we were going to go up again, but the idea is to, I'm running out of time a little bit. The idea is to just give you that sense of, as we slow down, it becomes very easy to slow down the breathing. And I really wanted to give you a full 3 or 4 minutes of that, but the point is once we finish that and we come right down to a gentle, slow fade out, which I didn't quite do there, we feel really, really relaxed. We feel really, really at ease and de-stressed. And the most important thing, I think, is it reminds us that we can use other things in our environment like mellow music or guided imagery that has beautiful background music. There's tons of free stuff on YouTube. There's lots of meditation music on YouTube. And it doesn't take much to meditate if you have those aids, and they can really help in a powerful way. Sorry about the vocal issues. It's always a challenge when there's voice and drum. Drum is a little bit louder, as we know. Um, Now, there's one more thing I love to do, which is to bring out my pentatonic tone chimes, which are made by both Rhythm Band and by Suzuki. These are you basically go like this, and they have these little striker that hit a different note, and they sound beautiful, and they're easy to play. You can hand them out, and you can play little games with them. Rhythm to Recovery training comes with some I think a discount on those from Rhythm Band. Suzuki also makes tone chimes, which are the best in the world. They are like the Maserati of tone chimes. They're a little expensive. They come in big sets, but if you can afford those, they're even better. But the Rhythm Band ones are certainly great. They're also color coordinated so that you can only play the pentatonic set. So that means you take out the F and the B. The burger and the fries. That's what we would say. The F and the B. And then you have a pentatonic set. Thank you, Mary. Okay, so I'd like to end off with one final rhythm that I love to teach. And I always like to, when I teach a rhythm, a culturally specific rhythm, I always like to honor where it comes from, because to not do that, I think, is cultural appropriation. And this rhythm is very popular in Jamaica. It's called the Naibingi. It's actually just one of many versions of this rhythm that are played in Rastafarian chants and in spiritual traditions and practices and ceremonies. It's also something you hear or you can use a lot in playing along to your old favorite reggae, your roots reggae stuff like Peter Tosh and Bob Marley. So if you have a drum and you like reggae, this is a great rhythm to know. The way we teach it, we call it the mother rhythm. For a reason I'll mention at the end, but we also call it the peanut butter and jam rhythm to teach it. So we're going to play bass, bass, tone, 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 bass, bass, tone. We're going to say, I like peanut butter, I like jam. Let's try that. I like peanut butter, I like jam. I like peanut butter, I like jam. I like peanut butter, I like jam. 1, 2, make up your own. And bass, 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 scratchy, scratch, bass, bass, rub, rub, bass, 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 bass. Now let's start to fade out the other stuff and just play the I likes or the bass parts. Bass, bass, rest, rest, bass, bass, rest, bass, bass, rest. Take some nice deep breaths and close your eyes. Keep playing the bass with me. Bass, bass, shh. Getting softer. 4, shh. A little bit softer. 3, a little bit slower. 2, 1. And just make some wind on your drum. You take a couple of nice deep breaths. Rubbing your drum for the wind sound. And put your hand on your heart. To this point, I'd like to share that this particular rhythm and drumming in general are kind of magical, because drums and rhythms can make our hearts beat at the same time. And usually at the end of an hour-and-a-half workshop, people are feeling viscerally connected. And when they play that rhythm and they fade it out into that heartbeat, I also tell them, I'm not your first drum teacher. Your mother was your first drum teacher. We all had the same drum teacher in the womb. When we were in the womb, the sense of hearing was the very first sensory organ to develop. And we had that sound accompany us throughout our entire gestation while we had consciousness. And we were never alone. That sound was always with us. And so this bass, drumming this heartbeat pattern can take us back to that place where all of our needs were met, where we were warm, we were fed, we were loved, we were cared for, acknowledging that not everybody had the perfect mother or the perfect pregnancy. But for the most of us, this sound can take us back to a place where we were cared for deeply, and we had no worries, we had no stress. And people really do feel that. Now, I want to share a quick story. At the beginning of my workshops, at the very first day, I'll introduce myself to people, I'll ask them how they're doing. After starting on class 2, we ask people to share how they're doing in the circle at the beginning. And people will share oh my God, I just got my news from my doctor. I'm freaking out right now. Or I just got some great news. Oh my God, I'm so happy. And people will applaud. Thank you, Mike, for the mic. Thank you, Mike, for the mic recommendation. But and sometimes people will cry. Whenever people cry, I often, we always have a box of Kleenex and Wellsprings, always, because there's a lot of crying that happens. The first thing people usually say is, oh, I'm sorry. And I say, please don't apologize. I want to thank you for feeling like you can share with us. And we're all touched by what you just shared. And you've given us all permission to share as well. Tears are very sacred, and they should always be thought of as I like to. An indigenous man once told me, a tear is the most sacred form of love. It's a physical representation of the love we feel for ourselves or for someone else. And I've always found it easy to cry after hearing that. I had a problem crying when I was younger, and I got over that, thank God. This really helps to release stuff that's stuck in the body, emotions, anger, and these things need to get out, because if they don't, they can lead to illness and disease. So finally, at the end of each workshop, we always ask the people to do the one-word share, and we go around the circle, and we ask everyone to contribute one word. And I'd like to invite all of you to do that now, just to share a word of what you thought of the presentation or how you're feeling now. And as you do that, I'd like to share a quick story. One day, I heard people share the typical words. I feel relaxed, I feel happy, I feel connected, I feel grateful. And this one woman said, distracted. And people kind of turned their heads, and I wanted to know what she meant. I was going to approach her afterwards, but before I had a chance, she came up to me and she says, I just have to tell you how amazing that was. Ever since I got my diagnosis, I haven't been able to stop thinking about cancer for 1 second. And for the last hour and a half, I didn't think about cancer once. Thank you so much. That's the best compliment I've ever received in one word. And this is such powerful work and so helpful and so simple in a way, because it goes back to something we all used to do. Thank you for those kind words, everyone. Now we're just running out of the end of time. I'm going to ask Mike now to share some of my contact information. And as I said, I will be doing probably a half-day workshop on some of the intricacies and the details of how I do this work with more experiential stuff, so you get a proper sense of it. It's not going to replace a health rhythms training. It won't probably cover everything that we do in health rhythms, because I can't really do that. And what I actually do is a combination of games I've learned from many sources, rhythms I've learned from many places, guided imagery scripts that I've come up with and learned, and great music that I've used. A lot of the inspirational beats questions, those difficult questions tied to each of those themes that we use in each workshop. And so my email is there. Just email me if you're interested. I will send you the date as soon as we have one, and all the details and the cost. And if you have any questions, if you want to get into this work and you're just stumped and you don't know what to do, and you have a couple questions you want to ask me, I'm happy to answer them. I would be grateful to help you do this work in your community, because as we know, cancer is everywhere. And we need to work on that. We need to get better at helping people overcome it. So I think we'll just end with a little bit of drumming, because that's what we always like to do. Mary, do you want to say anything before I drum, or will we share something afterwards?
No, we'll do it now, and then we'll end in music, which bookends the ritual as we come in music and go out in music. So we'll do our talking right now. Thank you, Rufus. Can you all just give him our virtual wow? That was such a beautiful presentation, filled with so many ideas and such heart. I so appreciate that, Rufus. It was just glorious. Thank you. And I could see the reflection from everybody in the community, the appreciation. And what a beautiful body of work in service. It's just stunning to hear you share and talk about your stories, Rufus. And so, yeah, we have just a little bit of housekeeping that we do at the end of each session. And first of all, you can find Rufus's video and share it with anybody that you would like on the website. Mike, if you put the music for people, put my music for wellness website, then they know where they can go to get the information and see some of the other videos that we've collected in the video resource library. A lot of presenters are here. Irene, Lulu, Patricia. Wow, we have so many people. Mike, myself, that have presented there. So thank you, thank you. And next week we have Jana Broder. And I don't know if she's still here. She was here earlier. So she will be joining us. So we're very excited about having her. And she is going to share somewhat of her chapter in the book as well. Jana, are you still here? I don't see her. Okay, I think she must have had to go. So there's a write-up on drum magic, and there's a write-up a little bit on the website, so you get to see kind of what she's going to be sharing. Mike put the link in the chat, so you can check that out and find the other videos. We are donations. This is a not a funded project. We've been doing it for a year, Mike and I, and we're very dedicated to keep it going. So we appreciate any donations. They'll go to Music for People on their site. And so they're also supporting us just in helping us use the channel that we use each week. And we so appreciate that and their support. So Mike, if you'll put that in the link as far as supporting donations. And Mike and I will be doing a facilitator training online coming up later this month. Hey Mike, you want to tell a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So we're piling lots of links in this chat. Remember that you can go down to the bottom of the chat and there's 3 little dots right there. You can click those and save the chat and just save all that information right there. And Rufus, you can do that too if you want to collect this wonderful feedback or anything like that.
I will. Thank you.
So yeah, we have a training coming up Sunday, March 21st, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is about everything that we've been showcasing for the past year. It's about creating your own online wellness events using music, movement, and connection. Let me share that link. And you're going to learn, the foundations and the supporting principles that Mary and I build into what we do. You're going to learn the digital technology and the Zoom platform. You're going to learn fun activities you can start using right away, and how to design these programs and cater them to all needs. And that's something Rufus just taught a masterclass in that. I mean, much of what we do, it's about learning about needs and just making those adjustments. So, like, he shared so much that can be used in so many different settings and not just working with people who have cancer in some of these settings. So yeah, you'll learn a lot. You'll have some time to practice, and then we're also going to give you some backing tracks that you can legally use to lead movement activities and sing-alongs and different things like that. So we'd love to see you there.
Hey, thanks, Mike. And I think that's it for our announcements this week. Jana next week coming up. Oh, and then we're going to be taking a break. We're taking a spring break from the series. We're moving into opening it up to a much broader spectrum to service people that are working music, movement, and in all intergenerational communities. So you will see not just a senior focus as we move forward, but we're really opening it up. And we're very excited about that. We're going to take about a month off, and we will certainly let you know when we're getting started again. I think that's it. Thank you again, Rufus. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We so appreciate you here, and we hope you have a lovely evening. And Rufus, you're going to take us out in music.
I will, and I just thought I'd mention, I put in the chat the book that's coming out next month with all of these amazing chapters, including the one that I've written on drumming with cancer. It's an amazing resource. I highly recommend it. I've only got the shorter version, which we put out as an ebook a couple of years ago. So this is going to be even bigger and so much better. So we're going to finish. We're going to do the same thing we did at the end there by playing the Nyabingi. I like peanut butter, I like jam in there. And we're going to play it for a little bit. We're going to improvise a little bit. And then we're going to really fade it out nice and slow. As we fade it out, try to slow down your breathing. And we'll fade it out to nothing and just see how we feel. Okay? So I like peanut butter, I like jam. Let's say that. I like peanut butter, I like jam. keep playing the same thing if you like. Feel free to close your eyes and take some nice deep breaths. Starting to slow. In a moment, we're going to take out everything but the heartbeat, the bass. 4, 3, 2, 1. Just the basses. Bass. I'm going to go a little slower now. Close your eyes, slow your breathing. We're going to fade down to silence over 8 heartbeats. Just a moment. Here we go. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. A little bit quieter, a little bit softer. 2, 1. Just put your hand on your heart. Make some wind on the drum with the other. Take some nice deep breaths. And share a smile with everybody on the screen. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Rufus. Beautiful way to close. Have a great evening, everybody. Join us next week for Jana Broder.
And she's awesome too.
Yeah,
Come back.
so excited. Okay, there they go. Have a great evening. Bye.
Nice to see you all.
Thanks so much for coming.
Good to see you, Arthur.
Bye.
All right, I'm going to stop recording.